Yes, I'm a professor in landscape architecture with focus on environmental psychology. So I'm not a medical doctor, but Matilda van den Bosch is. So we have made this presentation together. More and more we have different kinds of cooperation with Lund University, the medical faculty. When I started my research in the 1980s, it was in how to design places health promotive. It was urban parks, it was places where people live, but more and more we also studied special units like schools, kindergartens, elderly care, hospitals, and it was about how people perceive the environment. And more and more we came into contact with people suffering from stress-related mental diseases. And I went to the United States to talk to Stephen and Rachel Kaplan, because they found that people suffering from what they called mental fatigue, people who were extremely exhausted, when they took them into forests in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, they found that they could restore capacities. And their theory was that people have different kinds of attention. The directed attention is used to sort information, prioritize, make decisions, and carry through what they have decided. And people who suffer from exhaustion, they have big difficulties to sort information. But we also have another kind of attention that's spontaneous. We see that the flashing light, that you hear sounds from bushes, etc. And this kind of attention does not tax energy, but the directed attention is it's a very small resource we have, so we must always try to restore this capacity, otherwise we collapse. And that was very interesting. It was in the beginning of the 1990s, and well, it was not that familiar to me, this problem. But in the late 1990s, it became extremely actual. It was you could say it was an epidemic in the Scandinavian countries, with lots of people suffering from exhaustion. In the Netherlands, for instance, it's called severe burnout, so you know what we are talking about. But in Sweden we call it exhaustion. These people, they often get SSRI pills, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, but they are not depressed. Mainly they are not depressed, they are exhausted. So it doesn't help. So since a lot of results show that being outdoors in nature could help, we started this rehabilitation garden in Alnarp. So how to design a rehabilitation garden? Well, knowing that they have difficulties to sort information, we need to make different kind of rooms for them. What is especially interesting is that they are hypersensitive. The participants we got, they had not been able to work or study for several years, on average 4.5 years. And some of them had been at home for almost 10 years, one or two for more than 10 years. And they had not been able to work or study. And they were extremely stressed because they wanted to be good. They had not been able to rest during these years. Most of them had high grades from school. They had high positions in the society, and they knew they could be very good. So each night when they went to bed, they said, "Tomorrow I'm going to be good." And when we asked them about their everyday life, they said that they had not been able to listen to radio for several years. Music was terrible. They couldn't listen to music. And they could not even stand certain colors, like red, orange. Perfume, it was terrible as well. What we wanted to do was to make a salutogenic environment, to start health processes they had inside. And these health factors, meaning in everyday life, relaxing and meditative places, daily walks, and that the body have possibilities to regularly work hard and exercise, and a good night's sleep. They didn't sleep very well because they were so stressed. So in the middle of the night, they woke up and stared at the roof. So if we have a very stressed person or a very stressed animal, what do? They want to find shelter, safe and secure haven, view and surveillance, water and lush environment, no sharp noise, no demands. This program, it lasted for 12 weeks. And we could see we had a team consisting of an occupational therapist, a psychotherapist, physiotherapist, and a landscape engineer and a landscape architect. So together they formed a team, and the occupational therapist, she was very interested in music. And you could say it was kind of an indicator when they could listen to music for the first time in several years. And it was not any kind of music. It was Jan Johansson, that's good. Not too much information to sort. Kind of a theme they could listen to without getting stressed. So we designed several rooms, and if you look back, these kind of shelters, view and surveillance, they consisted of different kinds of characteristics we wanted to put in these rooms. And the rehabilitation process is 12 weeks. They started in certain rooms, and at the end of the therapy, they could be in quite demanding rooms. So we started with rooms with extremely low demands of activities as well. And in the end, it was more work-related. So these health promotive qualities was prospect and refuge, to find a place where they could be alone and also have prospect over the surroundings. Social places, cultural places, and these places was at the top of this pyramid at the end of the therapy. Natural places, species richness, and last, the most important qualities, space and serenity. And we had already found in our earlier research that these 8 qualities were extremely important. And most important of them all was this serene quality. To have not quiet, but sounds of wind, water, and birds. So this is the rehabilitation garden. Some of the rooms. We also have an epidemiological study in Skåne, including 20,000 people. We ask each third year, and there's a lot of questions about their health. And we also have we can see where in this region we have certain important qualities. And in the middle of Skåne here in Sjöbo and Hörby, there are a lot of health-promoting qualities, and especially this serene quality is important. And we, together with epidemiologists, we can see that the health situation is much better there concerning stress. So what about this serene quality? We wanted to understand more because our rehabilitation garden functions extremely well compared to controls. When we compare between 2002 and 2012, we compared our intervention with the usual intervention, and we could see that our rehabilitation functioned much better, and they could return to labor market. So we wanted to understand what in our rehabilitation could function, and especially the serene quality everybody talked about. So the most and second most important characteristic in all studies that was serenity. So we wanted to study a rehabilitation garden in a virtual reality laboratory. And some visual characteristics we knew were good, and to vary the sensory modalities. And to start with, we wanted to look at this serene. Our hypothesis was stress recovery can be facilitated in a virtual green setting and further facilitated by this serene quality. We had 30 healthy males because male and female, they react differently, so we wanted to have it start with the males. And we used the virtual reality laboratory at Lund University, and it's quite advanced with 3 rear projected walls, floor projection, passive stereoscopy, and a head tracking system. And we wanted these twittering birds and murmur of water, that what they said was the most important. And to start with, we wanted these 30 people to be very stressed. So we used the TRIAS social stress test. It's used all over the world. You are supposed to hold a speech and make an arithmetic task at the same time. And you have a panel. And they give no emotional response at all. And in the beginning, you had people acting as this panel, but this is also in a virtual reality. And this person in the middle, he's extremely irritating. So you get so mad. You know that it is in a virtual setting. Still you get so stressed because they are so rude. So it functions, really. And here's our rehabilitation garden. And after having very high stress, you walk into the garden, and we can get some data collection. Cortisol, saliva cortisol. We know that if saliva cortisol goes up, they get more stressed. And we measure heart rate and the kind of T-wave amplitude and high frequency heart rate variability. All of them, these tests are known to be highly correlated with stress. So we have virtual reality, nature and sound, and without sound under control. So these figures show that here's the baseline and here's after the Trier social stress test. We see that they get mad, they get very stressed. And the heart rate goes up and the T-wave amplitude goes down, as it should be. But what was extremely interesting was that when they went to the rehabilitation garden without sound, something happened. It was worse than having a controller, just a blank sheet. When we had this serene quality, they restored. Very strange. And what was also very interesting was that it was all figures show that it was not as we expected, that you have different kinds of stress reaction. It could be the sympathetic reaction would go down. That's what we expected, but it didn't. It was a parasympathetic which went up. So it was kind of a coping reaction. They were still stressed, but they could cope with the reaction in another way. So this serene environment made them cope with their stress in a better way. So the discussion what we said was that the high visual realism and you had a very nice nature without sound was a kind of a surrealistic situation. It was quiet, and if we had visual reality, nature and sound, it was an enhanced feeling of reality. All these results made us become extremely interesting to continue to see what the sound environment in nature really does. So, thank you.